The eCom Seller Summit was created to prove that with the right tools and training, anyone and everyone can make money in e-commerce. So many people want to try their hand at e-commerce, selling on eBay, Amazon, Shopify, and more, but they're afraid they won't be successful. This summit will show you that there's many ways to do e-commerce, and there are many platforms you can explore, because e-commerce really has no limits. It really can pay your bills, and e-commerce never sleeps. There's nothing like waking up to profits from getting sales all night long. My name is Nicole Whitlock, and this is the eCom Seller Summit.
Hey everyone, welcome to this session. My name is Anthony Seraldi, and I am the Director of Coaching at Private Label Mastery, and I'm also an Amazon Private Label Seller for many years now. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is I'm going to give you a really good in-depth overview of a different way to approach private label, and I'm going to take you through some really good nuggets of information. So whether you are a brand new seller or you're somebody that's already been selling on Amazon, this will be applicable to you. So let's go and jump into my screen, into the presentation. Be prepared to take notes, pay attention, turn off distractions, and I'm going to give you some really great information. So let's go in now. All right, so we're going to be covering what I call the TSA method for private label in 2022. So first, I want to welcome you to this session. I'm going to give you as much value and information as I possibly can. So sit back and let's get into it. So we're going to cover in this section today, in this lesson, is who should start an Amazon business and who should not, why Amazon, a different approach to private label than you may have heard of, and the most common mistakes and pitfalls that we see Amazon sellers make. And then I'm going to end it off with some product selection tips for you. So I'm going to cover this presentation from the perspective of someone that's thinking about starting an online business, but this is also going to have some really great tips and nuggets for those of you that are already selling on Amazon. So first, the main thing is, let me just tell you a little bit about myself so you know who I am. So like I said earlier, my name's Anthony Seraldi. I have sold over $2.2 million on Amazon FBA using the private label method. I've launched hundreds of products on the Amazon.com platform since about 2016 in multiple product categories with 3 trademark brands currently, and that's between myself, my own account, and some other clients. I was born and raised in Long Island, New York. I now live in North Carolina. I also graduated Hofstra Business School, and I've helped hundreds of others learn this business from zero, okay? People that have never sold anything online before, maybe that's you. We have helped them go from zero to earning a living on Amazon. I became an entrepreneur at an early age because my first business was an ATM business while I was going to college full time. And then I had found out about selling on Amazon around the end of 2015 into 2016. And I jumped right in because of the freedom and flexibility it could offer. And I haven't given up since. So I've been to China twice. Early on, my very first year, I did a sourcing trip. You can see me here this was in Yiwu, China. And this is the translator that I was bringing around with me to discuss, getting quotes and stuff with the factory owners. This is just kind of a screenshot of what it looks like in one of the hallways of the Yiwu markets. It's a huge marketplace in China. And then this is inside a factory watching them do an actual inspection of products and how they do this random selection and what they check for. So it was a really great experience. And then a few years later, I went back and I went to Guangzhou, China, and also Hong Kong. All right, so you don't have to go to China to source products, but it was a really great experience. And one day when you have the opportunity, you should definitely go and check it out. So enough about me. Who is this for? So if you're brand new, what we have to understand is that an entrepreneur is someone who takes risks. So if you've never started a business before, it's a different mindset than you would be used to as an employee. All right, someone that has a high level of passion or motivation, someone who takes action and doesn't sit on the fence, but they are a doer. Okay, I can't tell you how important it is for you to be able to understand that you have to make that mindset shift of you need to be able to push through the lows, and you need to be able to stay motivated and consistent and take action and be willing to take that risk. Now I'm going to show you how to go about this business with a lower risk, but you need to be clear that it takes an entrepreneur to build a business. This is also for people that understand that success takes sacrifice, right? Entrepreneurs usually work longer hours, not less. They have a goal, they're determined, they're resilient, focused, and they're ready to make a change. This is why having a really strong underlying why or reason of why you want to start an online business is really important, because you need to really have that drive to be able to push through the ups and downs that a business brings. No matter if it's online or a traditional business, there's going to be hard times. So you have to always revert back to that why. Why am I doing this, right? Why am I trying to build this online business? Whether it is, to make more money, so you need to have extra money, but you need to narrow down the reason why. Why do you need to make more money? Is it so you can take your family on a vacation? Right? You have to really narrow that down so you remember why you're doing this when times are tough. Who is this not for? Okay, if you're looking for a get-rich-quick business, which again, there's no such thing, right? Doesn't exist, but every business takes work. Okay, you have to be coachable on your product. Successful Amazon sellers are great at product selection, and they're flexible on the product, meaning you can't just say, oh, I only want to sell this kind of product. Right? You have to be willing to be flexible and be able to understand that it's not always going to be a product that you love, right? If you can't follow a game plan, then this is not for you either, all right? But let's talk about why you should build a business on Amazon. Because on Amazon, using their fulfillment centers called FBA solves a big problem. Right? Before something like Amazon FBA, which is their fulfillment network of warehouses across the country and across the world, if you wanted to have a physical products business, you would have to have a warehouse, employees, and all of that cost that comes with that and overhead, or you would have to use another third party to do that for you. But Amazon gets rid of that problem by allowing us to use their sophisticated fulfillment network so we can send all of our inventory to them and let them handle all of the customer service, the storage, the fulfillment of our orders, and also the returns, so that you're working on your business and not in the business. Amazon also has the traffic, right? There's already people coming there. You don't need to build your own website and drive your own traffic. The other thing is you can grow and automate it, right? It's a full-time job killer is what we call it, because you can scale your business quickly once you get experienced and familiar with the whole process, and you can bring income in, which is the ultimate goal. The other thing is we have a lot of different data available to us, right? And it's also about being able to understand how to use that data, but Amazon provides third-party sellers with a lot of different data and insights to know how to succeed. The other benefit of building a business on Amazon is the lifestyle, right? Working by yourself. Most Amazon sellers don't have any employees. They don't have any buildings, right? They don't have an office. They don't have a warehouse. And they tend to work alone, at least initially. The other thing is that 55% of the sales on Amazon, okay, that's $386 billion in 2020, were generated by people and small businesses like me. Okay, so that would be you as well. We're third-party sellers. Shares of Amazon sales from third-party sellers, you can see here, okay, and you can see how that's increased, okay, starting from 2007, and you see that it's continued to increase, meaning that we are kicking Amazon's butt, and we're just going to continue doing so. Now, thousands of people make a full-time income on Amazon. This is just a couple examples of some of our students, whether it's $11,000 a month or $147,000 a month. There's no need to kind of, judge yourself against others. For some people, they don't need that much to really make a big difference in their life. The other thing is we live in an amazing time, right? Where people only need to have a traditional 9-to-5 if they want, okay? Because you can build an online business, whether it's on Amazon or something else. There's tons of ways to make money online. And if you're willing to put in the time and work, you can break free of those chains of having a 9-to-5. So it's a really interesting time to be alive. Whereas in our, parents' generation, right, there was no internet when they were starting out. So you had to start a traditional business where you'd have to be there all the time. Now we're able to create these businesses on the side while we're still working full time, so we don't have to lose that income. and we can give the business a chance to grow and get to where it needs to be before we take that risk and, cut off that income stream. The other thing is you need to think like a business owner or an investor. Okay, most business owners have to obtain loans in order to start their business. Jeff Bezos, the creator of Amazon, had to borrow $150,000 from his parents to start Amazon. And look at where he is now. Had he not done that, we wouldn't have had Amazon, right? And if business owners were against financing a business, we wouldn't have a lot of our favorite restaurants, bars, clothing stores, grocery stores, gas stations, etc., right? Now, granted, starting a traditional business costs a lot more money than starting an Amazon business, but the point is leveraging business loans will allow you to grow a business if you don't have any funds, right? And you're not using debt in the wrong way. Using debt to buy materialistic things or personal items, that is not the correct way to use debt, right? Using debt to start a business that is going to potentially bring you a return is how every traditional business has been started in the past, right? Most people don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their bank account to go out and start a traditional business, so they've had to take small business loans and other types of loans or home equity on their house in order to be able to start their business. They've had to take that risk, right? The risk of doing that. So even if you have very little funds, just realize that even leveraging something like a small personal loan, which is what I did to start my Amazon business, will help you build income in your business if you take this seriously. Now, I'm not advocating for people to go out there and go into debt. What I'm saying is you should have an income stream already, so you're working a job that's paying your bills, so that if you were to go and take out some sort of loan to start a business, you are comfortable enough to be able to pay that payment until you have that income coming in, okay? So there's lots of options out there to get them. You could see some here, and some of you may have some cash available to use, but myself and my business partner had taken a small personal loan, about $10,000, to start our Amazon business many years ago. So I just wanted you to be familiar with the fact that you have to think like a business owner or investor. Now let's talk about a different approach to private label. Now, if any of you have been studying private label or been, doing private label on Amazon, then you may have learned a different way. Now, just for those of you that may be watching this that don't know what private label means, I will just quickly explain it, all right? But private label is all around you. When you go to, let's say, a grocery store, okay, let's say Publix. So I have Publix here in North Carolina. If I walk into Publix, I'm going to see that Publix has lots of their own products, right? They did not invent those products. It is just their own branded version of that product. Same thing in CVS or Walgreens or Whole Foods, right? Has their private label brand. Walmart has private label brands. Target has private label brands, okay? You get the point. So it's a product that already exists. It's not something that they are inventing from scratch. They may be finding some sort of way to differentiate it, but they're putting their brand name on it. Okay, so if I buy Publix paper plates, Publix didn't invent paper plates. Okay, there's no patent on paper plates. They are just selling their own version of them. That is what private label is. So in this lesson, this session, what I'm going to basically cover is what we call the TSA method. And it just stands for test, scale, and automate. It's a different way of approaching private label on Amazon versus the mainstream methods that are taught out there. Now, I'll cover how this method works exactly, but first, let's start off by examining the main issues that we see with private label, particularly for new sellers. So the main obstacle that the new sellers have is there's a really steep learning curve, right? There's a lot to learn when it comes to building a private label business. There's learning how the Amazon platform works, so how your back end works, Seller Central it's called, learning where everything is, learning all of the strategy around how to find a product, how to source that product, how to import that product, how to get it onto Amazon, and then how to advertise that product on Amazon, and also deal with any of the little issues that come about in any part of that process. So there's a really steep learning curve. And many people try to do all of that themselves with no support or coaching. Now, when I first started out in this business, there wasn't a ton of, programs out there like ours or any courses really out there. I was able to find, a course, but it was nothing that great. It just gave me a head start. But I continued to consume and purchase more information over time as I gained more experience and refined my own process to come up with what I'm going to talk to you about here. But the point is, there's a steep learning curve, and many people try to do it themselves with no support or coaching. And we see this all the time at Private Label Mastery, where we have new students come in that had tried to do it themselves and realized that there was so much information that they were missing. They were trying to YouTube things and they're getting 10 different opinions about the same topic, and they have nowhere to get an answer to the questions they have, especially the right answer. The other thing that we see is that many people don't have a large budget to start this business, right? Most people have less than $5,000 to start this business. And that's really not a lot when it comes to starting any business. So, the whole idea behind this is that you're trying to do this to make some more income, okay? And you're going to see why I'm talking about budget in a second, but a lot of us start out doing everything by ourselves as well, right? Because we don't have the money to go out there and hire a team, hire people to do things for us. We need to learn every aspect of the business first ourselves. Once we start bringing in some income, cash flow, we can then start to bring in people like virtual assistants or hire out certain tasks to outsource those and free up our time. But unlike a traditional business, for example, where if you were going to start a restaurant, you would not be able to be the chef, the host, the hostess, the bartender, right? The waiter, the busboy. You couldn't be all those people. It's just not physically possible. But in an online business, you can, right? Not that it's the best long-term strategy, but starting out, you can do that, and it's necessary to learn all that stuff before you outsource it. The other thing that happens with newer sellers, and I was guilty of this myself, is most new sellers get distracted by shiny object syndrome, which is essentially the latest hack, the latest, way to sell and make money, the latest way to rank a product on Amazon. There's always going to be this noise out there, and it's hard to not pay attention to it. Another thing we see is that there's no systems or processes in place. Every business, especially when we look at traditional businesses, have systems and processes in place. The other thing is making mistakes that put them out of business. So these are your main obstacles, right? And I'm not trying to scare you away, but I'm trying to explain how our solution fixes some of this, okay? Because you have a lot to learn. Most people don't have a big budget. You're trying to do this yourself while you're working, okay? And you're trying to avoid making mistakes that are going to cost you whatever money you had to start with to begin with. So some more mistakes that we see sellers make is spend a lot of time trying to find this perfect first product, okay? And they order hundreds, if not thousands of units for their first Amazon product, meaning they've never sold anything on Amazon before. They also try to create this perfect packaging, okay? And I'm guilty of all this, guys. I did this in the beginning too, because I didn't know of any other way. They plan on using some sort of complicated launch strategy to force their way into the market, which is obviously risky, and they don't properly differentiate their product to competition-proof it. So instead what they do is they find a product that's selling well on Amazon, and they just go and launch the same exact thing and wonder why they can't compete with these other sellers that have hundreds, if not thousands of reviews already, and you have zero, right? The other thing we see also is spending way too much time overthinking. Okay, overthinking every little step, because when you take the more traditional approach of going deep into a product, there's a lot of money on the line. So it makes sense why it takes so many people so long to get started with private label and pull the trigger, because they have so much money on the line that they want to make sure they get everything perfect. Okay, but here's the thing. What happens if you're wrong and it doesn't sell the way you thought, and now you're deeply invested and have lots of inventory? Right? And now you have all this inventory you need to try to move. The problem is that there is no software, no algorithm or checklist that can account for the subjective side of products. What I mean is, we are not going to go out there and launch the same exact product that everybody else is selling. We have to find a competitive advantage. We have to find a way to differentiate and stand out. Okay, but we don't know how that's going to resonate with the market. Maybe you changed the color and that was how you're going to differentiate. You don't know if customers are really going to like that color. Maybe it doesn't really resonate with the market. All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. So don't get me wrong, that approach can work. There's lots of really big sellers out there that, they do this extensive research and they go deep into this one product, and it can work, but it doesn't work 100% of the time. So think about it. As a new seller, if you have a very small budget or a limited budget, you have 5K, let's say, and you spend all 5K on one product, right? You have one shot as a brand new seller to get everything right. And most new people don't. So I know that some of the larger sellers that may hear this, that have been doing this process, may disagree, but you could agree that for new sellers that have a very limited budget, it is really, the odds are really against them that it's going to work, okay? So most new sellers don't have that skill set yet. They haven't been through the entire process of, sourcing products, getting them here to the US, getting them onto Amazon, running advertising. They're doing all of this stuff for the first time. And a lot of it also plays into mindset, right? When you have that much money invested into one product, you're going to try to do everything you can to try to make it sell, okay? And it's going to stress you out if it doesn't. So mindset and experience is going to be something that's going to limit you from having that chance of success with just one product. Most new sellers don't have those deep pockets. So if their first product fails, it's usually going to result in them giving up, okay? Because they're out of the game. They don't have any money left, or they've only made back a small amount of it. It also takes longer to get multiple products selling since you have to make such a large investment on just one product. So the question is then, how do we solve this issue, right? So as a new seller, it's much better to first gain experience, right? Especially as a new seller, you need to gain experience. You need to go through every step and process with lower risk so you can learn the ropes and take smaller calculated risk. And here's the thing, if you study what large corporations do that have tons and tons of money, okay, even they do not go all in on a brand new product, okay? So we can copy what large corporations do because even companies like Procter & Gamble have failed product launches, okay? They do not have a 100% launch success rate. Nobody does. I don't care who they are. If they're selling on Amazon or anywhere, nobody has a 100% success rate. Most large companies evaluate the viability of their new products in various ways before they go to large-scale production. So the fact is that they don't just go out there and develop a new product and produce millions of them and put them out in every store, right? Without first doing some sort of testing. And they do this through various ways like paid surveys, focus groups, and things like that. But another example of this would be a new menu item at a fast food restaurant, right? So let's say Taco Bell. Before an item ever gets on their menu, they're going to test that with a small focus group to make sure it tastes right? They're not going to just make some new taco and be like, oh yeah, that should be good and put it out. No, they're going to have a small focus group first test it. Then after that, instead of putting it on every menu item of every location, they will test it for a limited time in a small amount of locations, right? Just like when we talk about TV shows, right? There's always the pilot season, right? Where it's usually a shorter amount of episodes because then they're putting out less money to produce that series, and they're going to see how that pilot goes first before they decide if they're going to do a second series, right? So going deep on Amazon, in my opinion, on your first product, okay, or on one product at a time, even if you're not a new seller, to me, it's like a new series on Netflix going out and producing all three seasons without ever having tried to see if people like it first, right? That's basically what it's like to me. So why should we treat selling our own brand of product on Amazon any different, right? And I know what the argument would be. Yes, we're not inventing something brand new, and we can see on Amazon if a product already has demand and is selling, but there's several things that we won't know until we actually have a product up and live on Amazon, okay? And that's things like, how easy is it to grab a piece of that market? Does the market like how you differentiated, right? Is it resonating with them? And is it too expensive to compete in that market from an advertising perspective? Now, how easy is it to grab a piece of that market? More experienced sellers that have been selling a long time, may be able to look at certain data points and try and come to a conclusion on how easy it's going to be to grab a piece of that market. But as new sellers, most new sellers are not going to get that right. Does the market like how you differentiated? Nobody could possibly know that without trying to actually sell the product first. So instead, we can use Amazon as our actual focus group, right? Or market testing, so to say. So just like big corporations do before they launch, we can use Amazon as basically our focus group or market testing group. And yes, even after we prove that a test works, right? So we test a product and we find that it's really working, a product still may ultimately fail in the long run, but it lowers the risk of that happening significantly. Just like Procter & Gamble going out and doing focus groups and paid surveys and all this market research to see if a new product is going to work, and they come to the conclusion that yes, it is, and they go out and start selling that product, there is times where that product may still ultimately fail because it's not out in the actual market. So what we can do is use Amazon to get in front of our actual real live customers and see how it's resonating before we put too much resources into any one product. Okay, so let's talk about this TSA method, the test, scale, automate. And again, this is going to likely be very different than what you've heard and kind of be like a contrarian approach to what mainstream, approaches are out there in the private label world. Okay, but again, this is all centered around being inexperienced and taking a lower risk approach. So what if instead we find, say, 3 products and we launch all 3 of those products at the same time? And to lower our risk and the amount of capital that's needed to validate those products, we order a small amount of inventory of each, okay? So instead of just going deep into one product and spending, it could be $5,000 or more on inventory, and you've never sold anything on Amazon, by the way, we order a small amount and we spread it out between 3 products. Then we can let the market tell us which one of those products are the easiest products to sell. So we test it first, then we decide which one's the easiest to sell. We scale the winner, meaning we go and place a large order, so 500 units, and then we automate that product and repeat the process. So what I mean by automating is the initial upfront work is the most time intensive, meaning you're going to have to first find product ideas, you're going to have to do some validations, you're going to have to source those products to find a profitable supplier, you're going to have to get that inventory into Amazon, then you're going to have to test it to see which one is the winner. So once you do all that up front, that is done, right? Now all you have to do is just reorder that product. So once it's back in stock on Amazon, all you're really doing is managing the advertising, and you can use software these days to help you automate a lot of it. So really your focus then just goes back on repeating the process, okay? So don't get me wrong, you're still going to need money for inventory to place a reorder for that winning product, but you would have already confirmed that you can sell it. So you're going to have a lot more conviction and feel a lot more comfortable about going out there and placing an order for 500 units because you've already proven that you can sell it. Now, of course, there's a trade-off with this approach, right? Every business model, every approach has a trade-off. And I can already hear what some current sellers are thinking. Yeah, but you're going to run out of stock very quickly if you only order a small amount. And that is true. But we're making a trade-off to have a lower risk, okay? And we will get that reorder in as soon as possible, and we will use a new listing. But just stick with me here. So what is testing, right? So testing at its core is ordering a small quantity to test a market. Using plain packaging, so we're not going out and hiring a designer to make us some retail-ready box and then paying the factory to produce that box. I made that mistake on my first order. There's no need for that, especially on your first order, all right? So we're going to use plain packaging to keep the order cost down. Nobody's really going to care at the end of the day what your box looks like when they get it in the mail. All right, setting up an optimized listing. So we still want to set up what's called an optimized listing, which means we want to make sure we still have the right keywords, we have great photos, and more, all right? But the bottom line, the way to think about this is we're trying to test product ideas quickly so we can minimize the risk and then maximize success. So why do we test first? I think you're getting the point now. There's a much smaller risk. We can get the data directly from Amazon, validating with our market directly instead of just guessing, okay? Because at the end of the day, no matter what data points you look at, I don't care how long you've been selling on Amazon, part of that is still a guess, all right? And for most people, even if a really advanced seller has like an 80% success rate, the thing is that most new sellers can't afford to lose 20% of the time, and most new sellers are never going to have an 80% success rate, okay? So we're looking for the easy wins, but not the home runs. Products that are easy to sell without having to do any kind of complicated marketing to force it to sell. So there's these really competitive markets on Amazon where people have to do lots of outside marketing and drive outside traffic. So traffic that is searching in other places and bring them into Amazon in order to try to get that product to rank up in the Amazon search results. We want products that just sell. We turn on some advertising and they sell, even with no reviews, okay? Now, here's the other thing this helps solve. Product research is what holds most people up because there is no simple copy and paste formula that's going to always work, right? You want to end up finding the right niche. But if we come to that realization that, hey, we're only taking a small risk, we can move much faster on getting ideas to the market because we're not taking a huge risk by putting all this money and all of our eggs into one basket. We're spreading that out so we can move faster on product research. We'll still do some validation checks, but we don't need to go as deep as people normally would. Okay, so what makes more sense to you, right? Let's pose this question. Should you spend thousands of dollars on your first product or spend $500 or less for each product to launch? So here's a quick example, very simple numbers. If you go deep on one product, and let's say it's going to cost you $5 per unit to manufacture that, and based on looking at the competition and having enough inventory so you don't run out, let's say 3 months worth of inventory, you're going to need to order about 1,500 units. Okay, and that's exactly what I ordered for my first product. And that's going to cost you $7,500 and you haven't even paid for shipping yet. Okay, most people, that's already out of their budget. Now, let's say instead you take my approach and you go wide, right? And you order 3 products, small amounts. So let's say all 3 of them have different price points. So one product you're paying $5 per unit and you get 25 sample units, that's $125. Okay, the other one is $8 per unit to produce, 25 units, that's $200. $12 per unit and another 25 units, that's $300. Your total inventory cost is only $625. Yes, you'll still have to pay for shipping, but you can already see the night and day difference between going deep into one product and then spreading out your risk between 3 products with a smaller amount of inventory to just test the market. Find out what the market likes best. So you would only risk $625 to find a product that's easy to sell, right? Versus spending $7,500 on a product that you've never even sold before on Amazon, and in some cases, you never even sold anything on Amazon before, all right? That not only allows you 3 chances to find a winning product, but it's going to spread out your risk and also let you learn how everything works and put it into practice without risking all of the money that you have, right? That's the big key differentiator and why we love this strategy, is because it's going to allow you to also get experience without having to dump a ton of money. Okay, so if this did anything for you, it would allow you to get your feet wet without having to spend so much money in order to do that. So hopefully this is making sense to everyone and it's getting you excited to understand a different way to think about this, right? But think about it like this. If you were to test 3 or more products at the same time with a small amount of inventory, how fast do you think you're going to find a product that's easy to sell out of those 3? Versus if you were to just put all of your eggs into one product, you only have 1 chance. Okay, it's like me telling you, let's say shooting a bow and arrow. You've never done it before. And I'm telling you, hey, here's one arrow. You have only one chance to get the bullseye. And I'll give you, whatever, $5,000. Okay? The odds are totally against you. Most of you are never going to hit that bullseye because you've never even shot an arrow before. But if I say, hey, I'll give you 3 arrows, okay, and if you hit the bullseye with one of them, I'll give you $5,000. And so the odds are obviously statistically more in your favor because now you have 3 arrows to shoot instead of 1. So hopefully that's logical and it makes sense. But let's just keep it really simple. Find 3 products to test. Try to negotiate an opening sample order. So instead of ordering one sample like most people would do, we're going to tell the supplier we want 25 to 50 samples of each. Okay, so I usually start at 25. If the supplier is being difficult, you can go up to a maximum of maybe 100. Okay, 100 units. You don't want to go very large on the order. You want to keep the cost down as much as possible. Then you're going to create 3 listings on Amazon. You're going to optimize those with your target keywords. You're going to ship them into Amazon once you receive them to your home. And then you're going to run some advertising. You're going to turn on some PPC advertising is what it's called on Amazon. And we're going to evaluate the data, let's say over a 2-week time frame. And we're going to cut the losers and scale the winners. So how do we evaluate that data? So the way we measure the results is, were you able to make consistent daily sales even with no reviews? If that's the case, then once you relaunch and you have enough time and enough inventory to start accumulating reviews, then you know it's going to be even easier to sell it, because if you made consistent daily sales with no reviews, that's no social proof, no credibility. Once you have social proof, credibility, it's going to be even easier to make those sales. More customers, more customers will convert into buyers, right? Your conversion rate will go up. So then what we do is we just cut the losers, meaning we let the losers run out of stock, and we move the resources to the winner. All right. And then we'll also take a look at our PPC cost, our advertising cost, to see how expensive that market seems to be in order to be able to advertise in. Okay. Because even if we could make sales, but the market is super expensive to advertise in, then we're going to need to make sure we have really, really strong profit margins. Otherwise, it may not be a product that's going to be viable long term. So let's look at an example of one of my last product test launch. All right, so 3 private label products on Amazon. The first product sold on average 5 units a day, okay, with 0 reviews. And there's some that do even better than that sometimes. Product 2 only sold 5 units over a whole 2-week period. Couldn't get the thing to really sell, right? Product 3 sold a little bit less, right? A little bit more consistently though. Sold 1 unit, but every other day. So obviously we would scale product 1 since it had the most consistent sales, 5 units every day, even with no reviews. So that allows us to have that confidence and know, wow, this is really resonating with the market, because even with no reviews, and then I have my competitors that have reviews, people are willing to buy my product as much of a rate as 5 units a day, even with no reviews, because that's how much they like what I'm offering. Is that making sense now on how we are using Amazon's customers to our advantage to validate our ideas, right? To validate that the way we've differentiated, the way we've positioned our offer is making sense to the market, and that's why they're buying it. So it gives us that conviction that, okay, now we can feel more comfortable going in deeper and reordering that product, okay? So let's talk about scaling it, right? How do you scale it to have an empire? So the more products you test, then obviously the faster you're going to keep finding those winners. You cut the losers, scale the winners. All that means is you place a larger order on the product that was the easiest to sell. You take also, though, any customer feedback that you have received during that test into consideration before you place your next order so you can make improvements. It's very important to have a high quality product so that you're always getting the best reviews possible. And part of testing and having those units come to you is so that you can see them in person. You can take down your own notes on things that you want to see fixed or changed when you're ready to place a larger order, where factories are willing to do customizations to products when you get to those minimum order quantities. But you're also going to listen for any feedback. Sometimes you may get a message. You may get some returns that have a reason why they were returned. You may even get a negative review. It doesn't matter. That's okay. We want that feedback so that before we place that next larger order, we can make those updates. And we'll do that continually, right? We'll always look at our product reviews, even as it becomes a staple in our category, in our catalog, and we'll want to keep improving that over time as we need to. Then what we'll do is we'll launch more advertising campaigns so we get even more exposure, and you just rinse, repeat, and stay consistent, right? So if I was able to just magically give you 10 listings in your Amazon account, right? It's just statistically relevant that some of those are going to sell, okay? 10 listings in your account, just magically upload those 10 listings with inventory at Amazon, and you turned on advertising, some of those are going to sell, all right? It's just a fact. So that's essentially what we're trying to replicate, but we're doing it based on lowering our risk, working with our own budget, and trying to make sure that we can, cut things out quick and scale things faster. So now I know some existing sellers will say, well, you will be out of stock, right? And that will negatively affect the sales history of the listing, okay? So for those of you that are new sellers that don't know what I'm talking about, what that essentially means is that when you run out of stock on Amazon, it negatively affects the history. Amazon tracks that. And so every time you go out of stock, Amazon is tracking that and it hurts your rankings. Okay, so what we do to make up for this is we will delete the test listing after it runs out of stock, and then we will start with a brand new fresh listing so we can restart also what's called the honeymoon period. So when you first launch a new product on Amazon, there is this hypothetical honeymoon period where Amazon gives the new listing the benefit of the doubt and makes it the easiest time period to rank your product up in the search results. So that's a common thing I've heard sellers say is, well, if I run out of stock, then I'm going to lose my honeymoon period. So not only will we get rid of all the negative history by deleting the listing, but by starting with a fresh listing with a new UPC code, but all the same information, just a new UPC code with a new ASIN, we will be able to restart that honeymoon period, this time having plenty of inventory to make sure we can give it the best shot possible. So remember, the test is exactly just that. It's just a test. So what do you need to avoid? Well, at the end of the day, you need to stop overanalyzing products. Don't worry about trying to create fancy packaging. Forget about profits with a test, right? You're not going to get the best pricing when you're ordering such a small amount of inventory. Don't worry about doing some sort of proper fancy launch. We're going to use Amazon's advertising. Don't worry about products that don't sell. You only invested a small amount into each product. Think about the amount of stress that's going to save you. Having only purchased, let's say, 25 units, it's way easier to get rid of 25 units than it is to get rid of 1,500 units where you're so deeply invested, okay? So most sellers approach this business by going deep into a product, and they get stuck on trying everything in order to try to make that product sell because they're so invested into it. So by testing first, we get rid of that barrier, and that stress is gone. So there's really just some key areas to focus on as you start your business. You want to really focus on product ideas and development, sourcing and building your brand, mastering Amazon PPC. Forget about everything else for now, okay? Product ideas, which is product research and development, okay? Sourcing and building your brand. Then mastering advertising on Amazon. Those are the three main areas that you need to focus on. Forget about everything else right now. Don't set up Shopify. Don't set up Facebook ads. Don't worry about any of that. You have too much to learn as it is as a new seller. So test, right? That's the key to success with this version of private label. You have to test the market. Successful Amazon entrepreneurs have more than one product, which you will get over time. Go wide, don't go deep. Let the market tell you. Let them tell you which one is the easiest product to sell. And ABL, right? Always be launching. Diversify. Don't put all your products in all your eggs in one product or one category. Spread yourself out. So there's essentially three buckets that you'll invest into, okay? And that is your cost of goods, which is your inventory. That includes getting it landed here into the US. Then you'll have Amazon fees, but that will come out of your sales. And then other business investments. That can be things like software and, images for your listing, things like that. So we estimate that on average, you'll need around $1,500 to $3,000 to test multiple products at the same time. So that will depend on how many you test. There's times where I've tested products for under $200, right? Like each product, $200 or less. Really just depends on the cost of that product. So let's end it off on talking about some quick product selection tips, okay? So there's a lot of different ways to come up with ideas, okay? There's so many places you can go. So I've just listed some of the main ones that we like, which is places like going on Amazon, looking through the bestseller list and really niching down, meaning really digging into the subcategories to find those products where there's less competition, really specific products that people are looking for. Not products that are going to appeal to everybody and anybody. We want products that appeal to a certain sub-market, okay? The Wikipedia hobby list is a great place to go to find that because there's over hundreds of, hobbies that you would have never heard of before. And hobbies are a great place because it's something people are passionate about. It's a very specific niche, okay? Things like, for example, bowling, hunting, fishing, gardening, right? Those are hobbies. Software tools like Helium 10, okay, where you can go in and use some of their keyword research tools or their product research tools to find more ideas. Pinterest, where you can see the latest trending pins, right, and look for product ideas there. I also like to use Pinterest and Etsy to find differentiation ideas. Then you can also look through all the products that you already purchased from Amazon. Just go to your order history. What are you buying, right? Those all start off as ideas. Doesn't mean you'll go with them, but they give you places to start. So what is a good niche then? So for most people that have a low budget, okay, it's the amount of demand needs to be factored in by your budget. Okay, I always see all these numbers out there on, how much the revenue should be, but nobody's taking into consideration how much somebody's budget is, right? The amount of revenue that you can afford to make is going to be dependent on how much inventory you can purchase. You sell inventory to make revenue, which ultimately leads to profit. So in order for you to get into a market where, let's say there's $50,000 a month in revenue that you can make, you have to have enough capital to support that. So that's a big misconception I see out there. You have to base the amount of demand on how much money you can afford. All right. And a good place, a starting point for that is $5,000 or more per month. But just realize the higher that you go with that, the more capital you're going to need. All right. And your cost of goods is going to be anywhere between 20 to 30% of your selling price. Okay. So that's just kind of a quick, dirty way you could try to estimate that. And you'll need to purchase 3 months of inventory once you found a winning product so you can keep it in stock. The other thing is the market's not saturated, meaning there's not thousands of sellers and there's not listings with thousands of reviews already out there. And the main thing is you see a way to differentiate and stand out. So if we summarize this, there's enough demand so we can see people are purchasing these products. The market does not look saturated and you can figure out a way to differentiate and stand out. Okay, that's really most important. So build your list of ideas first. So instead of spending a lot of time, like I see other sellers do, analyzing every product idea that you come across, I recommend just building an initial list of ideas, first using some simple criteria, okay, like avoiding things that are going to have more red tape for you, like consumables, like anything that you're going to ingest, anything that goes on your skin. Those things are going to all have extra red tape that you don't know about, all right? So we recommend you build out an initial list of 50 ideas to work from. Just put it on a spreadsheet to keep track of them. Put like the name of the product, the ASIN, so you can spend more time on that later. And then after you build out that list, you can go to Amazon, search each of those, look at the market in whole, right? You're going to find the main keyword phrase that people would use to search for that. Then you're going to go analyze the search results, look at the reviews, look at how much demand there is, look at how you can differentiate, right? Look at the price points, those kinds of things. But the goal is speed and efficiency when you're building out an initial idea list. So don't overthink it. Just add everything that you can find or comes to mind, put it on that list, and then you can spend time cutting that list down very quickly. So our favorite categories on Amazon is health and household. So that includes like, a lot of products, and then patio, lawn and garden, pet supplies, home and kitchen, industrial and scientific, office products, sports and outdoors, tools and home improvement, arts, crafts, and sewing. Okay, and also I have some products in musical instruments. So I know that was a lot, okay, but hopefully for those of you that have been selling on Amazon, you see a different way of doing it that makes more sense, at least to me. And for those of you that are brand new, you're seeing that there is a way that you could do private label with a lower risk. So what you need to do right now is you need to take action. Okay, go set up your seller count. Don't wait. Time is money. The longer you wait, the worse it is. You need to get support. You need to have a plan and a system. Okay, and you have to begin with your end goal in mind. You have to have a vision of what you're trying to accomplish here and what time frame, and be realistic, right? You're not going to be retiring or leaving your job in 2 months, right? Maybe a year from now, but have a realistic goal and vision. The other thing to remember is always differentiate, find your niche, it's ideal to have a passion with your product, but you don't have to. Right? But just remember, you're building a real business that's going to provide income for you and your family for years and hopefully for a long time. All right, and treat it that way. Be committed, because real success doesn't happen overnight. So how can we help you with that, right? Who is Private Label Mastery? Okay, just listen for another minute, and I promise to have some good bonuses for you coming up. But Private Label Mastery, we are a 4-month-long done with you program, and we cover everything you need to know from the start on how to build a private label business. We give you those tools and processes and systems. And the coaches that work with me, we're all selling on Amazon. We bring years of experience and wealth of knowledge. You also get lifetime access to our step-by-step training course, which I'm always updating and constantly adding more. You get access to our private student community on Facebook for the duration of that program. You also get lifetime access to our private label alumni Facebook group, plus a monthly webinar after the program for free, okay? Now, one of the big things that I know most people need and love about our program is you also get 4 one-on-one coaching calls. So each month during the program, you will have a one-on-one coaching call. That is something that most programs out there don't have, where you can come with your own specific questions and talk with somebody one by one. The other thing is we also have 2 weekly group training calls where you can come and I answer everybody's questions, and we don't leave until everybody's questions are answered. We also have a Zendesk ticketing system where you can ask your personal questions instead of posting in our Facebook group. So this is not one of those programs where you just get a course and access to a Facebook group. Okay, you get a course, you get a Facebook group, you get one-on-one coaching calls, you get weekly calls, and you get a Zendesk ticketing system. We have every support level covered for you. Multiple ways to get support. So if this is something that you want to take seriously and you want to have the right tools and systems to prevent yourself from losing potentially thousands of dollars by making mistakes, if we could do anything at all by you joining our program, is we can help you prevent you from making really costly mistakes. If you learn anything at all, it'll at least be that. Okay, so go to this link here, plmastery.com/apply. Book a free breakthrough session there, and we will talk with you and see if it's the right fit, if we can help you get to your goal, and then go from there. All right. The other thing is, make sure you join our free Facebook group. Okay, it's Private Label in 60 days. Go to Facebook and search that, and you can join our free group where each week the coaches and I get together and we share tips and answer questions, and it's a great place to be. There's over like 10,000 people in there. And the other thing is, to end it off, we have bonuses for all access members. So if you already have upgraded, you will get this. If you haven't upgraded for this virtual event to the all access members pass, where you get all of the recordings, okay? Not only are you going to get all the recordings to all the presentations, not just this one, but you're going to get our bonuses as well, which would be a group Q&A call with me, okay? After this event is over, for anybody that upgrades, we'll get a group Q&A call with me and access to our brand new RA, Retail Arbitrage and Online Arbitrage course, which is perfect for beginners to really get their feet wet when it comes to selling on Amazon. So I hope that this was really valuable for you and informative. Hopefully we will see some of you inside the program so we can help you really get started on your business. And that's it for this presentation. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you have a great day.